As a future leader, it's critical to observe the things that people that are leading you are doing right. It's also critical for you to learn and see the things that they are doing wrong. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And today I want to talk to you about observing people, the things that they're doing right, the things that they're doing wrong. And I've spoken to you frequently on this channel about my main mentor, Mr. Bob Anderson, who taught me so many things, but he also taught me some things that were wrong. And fortunately for me, I was sharp enough to see that they were wrong and didn't pursue them. So I want to give you some ideas of the things that I'm talking about, and these are examples from last time we were talking about the movie The Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. Well, you remember that the sensei, his name was Kreese, had some things that he did that clearly were wrong. I want to point some of them out to you. So let's go back to The Karate Kid and let's see what we can learn about doing things right and doing things wrong. Mr. Miyagi says to Daniel, when Daniel's pointing out about how the sensei for the guys that are his nemesis are doing this, doing that, and he turns to Daniel and he says, "No such thing as bad student, only bad teacher." You got to notice the things that people do wrong as well as the things that they do right. I want to give you a couple of examples. Now, as I told you, Bob Anderson was somebody that I revered tremendously. But like I say, I want to give you a couple of examples. First of all, I was in Cincinnati running an office there, and I'm on the phone with Bob Anderson. He's in Florida, and he's giving me direction, so on and so forth. And one night in Cincinnati, it's very, very cold. All right, it's like 10 degrees outside. The wind chill is below zero. And in our business, we're sending people outside to go knock on doors. So Bob calls me and says, "So, what's happening good?" You know, that's how we always started our conversations. "What's happening good?" So I told him, and he said, "Any challenges?" I said, "Well, frankly, yeah. Bob, here's the deal. It's very, very cold outside. How do I motivate my people to go outside and knock on doors in weather like this? I mean, it's below zero outside. It's wicked." And he laughs and he goes, "Ha ha!" That was like his laugh. "Ha ha!" All right, let me tell you what you need to do. You take away their top coats. I said, "What?" He said, "You take away their top coats. When you take away their top coats, you're going to be outside, you're going to be so cold, you're going to be super motivated to get into the house." "Okay, Bob, thank you very much." Well, needless to say, I didn't take away their top coats. I used some other point to get them to go out and motivate, and I was out there with them. So my point is, you know, listen to what somebody says, but you don't always take it at face value. Different example. I promoted a young man, I don't know, he must have been 22 or 23, very, very young man, to a management position. He was in my San Diego office when I was there and developed, and I sent him to, Bob Anderson had like a little school that he would take with people that were top candidates, and he would say, "Do you have somebody?" I said, "Yes, I do." And 22, 23 years old, the guy's a sponge. He's got the right attitude. You're going to love this kid. All right, so I sent him out to Florida to work with Bob, and he's in a class with 4 or 5 other people from around the country. And finally he goes through the class and he gets his own office, which is in Tampa. All right, so he's in Tampa and he's doing, all the things that Bob Anderson taught him and so on and so forth. And one of the things that Bob Anderson used to do was he would stand in a meeting with his arms folded like this. All right, and because Bob Anderson was the man, all right, so he could do that. So I noticed when I went out to visit Kenny in Tampa to help him out a little bit, keep in mind I'm getting an override, so there's self-interest on my part, but also because I liked him and I wanted him to, to be successful. I see him in his office and I see him going like this, all right, and he's and things aren't going so well, and he's saying, Eli's dad, what am I doing? What am I not doing? So on and so forth. I said, first of all, Kenny, you got to be Kenny. You can't be Bob Anderson. You can't be standing there like this, like a big shot, because you don't have the credibility that Bob Anderson has. So you've got to understand that you've got to take the information that you're getting from your mentors, and even if that mentor is like Einstein in that particular field, you've got to take that direction and you've got to personalize it so that it works for you. You've got to be yourself. You've got to be authentic. Is standing there like this the person that you really are, Kenny? No, it's not. So be the person that you are. Be encouraging. Be motivating. Be enthusiastic. Genuinely. That's the key thing. The last story I want to tell you along this line is that I remember when I was younger and and my dad was angry with me, and he said, you need to do this. And I would say, why? And he'd say, because I said so, that's why. And I promised myself that I would never, ever say that to my children, because I didn't think it was right. Now, I love my dad. My dad was a great father. As a matter of fact, I've said this many times, if I'm half the father that my dad was to me, with you, Eli, I would be very satisfied with that. But that's one element that I took and said, I'm never going to say because I said so, and Eli, I never have. All right, let's get back to the movie. Let's talk about bad leadership. All right, Kreese, that's the name of the sensei. You remember him. Fear does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei. Pain does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei. Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei. What do we study here? The way of the fist, sir. And what is that way? Strike first, strike hard. No mercy, sir. I can't hear you. Strike first, strike hard. No mercy, sir. Okay, there's the leadership. And what is it that he's teaching these children? All right, because that's essentially what they are. I mean, they're kids in high school. What is he teaching these children? No mercy. No mercy. Strike first, strike hard. No mercy. Is that really the philosophy of karate? I don't think so. Not only that, but he's making them yell it and scream it and repeat it. What do you think that does? We do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. Here in the streets, in competition, a man confronts you, he is the enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. The law of the universe. Repetition means retention. When you say something over and over and over and over again, it becomes truth. One of the things I used to teach people in the sales game is say, what's the definition of truth? The definition of truth is what the client conceives to be the truth. That's what makes it the truth. So understand what's going on in their head. That's what the definition of truth is. And when you have somebody say something over and over and over and over again, it becomes the truth. It becomes muscle memory. Let me give you an example of something that's just happened in the very recent past. President-elect Biden, when you take a look at his history, he's not a socialist. He's not even close to a socialist. All right, he's been in public life for 45 years or so, but he's not a socialist. But what was the propaganda that was coming from the Trump campaign? This man is a socialist, and he repeated it over and over and over and over again to the people in South Florida who are coming from backgrounds where they were involved in socialist governments, and that's something that they didn't want. So when you repeat something often enough, it becomes the truth. Repetition means retention. So that can be a negative. It's a universal law. And universal laws can work positively or negatively. So when you're saying something to yourself, make sure it's something that you want to achieve and not something that's wrong. Something that you want to achieve. And when you do that, then it becomes a passionate truth inside you. Repetition means retention. Does that make sense? So there's such a thing as positive brainwashing. That's why when you have in your quiet thinking time, it's a good idea to have some affirmations about what your mission statement is, about what it is you want to accomplish, and say it over and over and over again, and then it becomes an important part of you that you will continually focus on, and that will help you achieve. Do you remember the scene where Daniel gets into it with Johnny, and they're chasing him, and then all the guys are around him, and they're on bicycles, and he catches them, they're like on a little cliff, and they're beating the heck out of Daniel. And one of the kids says, "Leave him alone, man, he's had enough." "Shut up, Bobby. Look at him, Dutch, he can't even stand up." "So what? That don't mean squat." "Johnny, leave him alone, man, he's had enough." "I'll decide when he's had enough, man." "What's wrong with you, Johnny? An enemy deserves no mercy." "Right, right, right." "You're crazy, man." You know, sometimes you realize when people are telling you things that the things they're telling you are wrong. Somebody has got to stand up and say, "Hey, enough, that's wrong." Can I think of any recent examples? Well, let's see. How about people blindly supporting after repetition, 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 about, well, I don't need to wear a mask, all right? And that's coming from the leader. You suppose that helped the country? Take a look at our numbers. To me, that would indicate that that was wrong. Another thing that's wrong is taking a look at this election that we just had. You take a look at the numbers, and there's been plenty of time by now, yet at the time that I'm making this video, which is the Sunday before Thanksgiving, the Republicans have still not said, "You're the president-elect, Mr. Biden," because they're getting the information without any evidence from their leader, and they're afraid to cross their leader. Sometimes you got to step up. Sometimes you got to see something is wrong. Just the same way as I knew it was not right to send people out in below zero wind chill factor temperature in Cincinnati without their top coats, people have to realize, and when rank and file people do that, it's more understandable. I mean, there's a large number of people that are blindly following this man who's focused on his election when there's a pandemic that is just destroying the health of this country. You're not doing anything about it. You've got to stand up and say, you know what? This is wrong. This is wrong. And it takes courage to do that. And unfortunately, that's what we expect from our leaders. We expect our leaders to step up. Johnny Lawrence talks to Daniel. He's handing him a piece of paper at school. He says, "Got something for you. All Valley tournament application. You fill that out and send it in so they'll know where to claim the body. Next to kin stuff, Then Daniel says to him, he says, "Let me ask you something." Now keep in mind, this is before Daniel had virtually any training whatsoever. He says, "Let me ask you something. We both know you can stop me anytime and anywhere for any reason. So why bother rubbing it in?" Johnny Lawrence says, "Well, maybe I like rubbing it in." And Daniel responds to him, "Don't you ever think that he," referring to the sensei, "might be wrong, at least about some things?" Think about that for a minute. You can't blindly follow anyone. It's good to have a mentor. It's good to have a focus. But always remember that you can't blindly follow anyone. And the fact that so many people to this day, I mean, they're going in groups and causing the virus to spread. They're going to super spreader events and they don't care, and I'm going to do this, and he's doing it, so it's okay for me to do it. Meanwhile, all the people around his inner circle are testing positive. Sometimes people are wrong, at least about some things. And if that weren't the case, we wouldn't be saying so often, get him a body bag! Because that's what we've been saying in this country ever since no action has been taken to curtail this virus by the Fed. So I'm not going to continue to wax on and wax on and wax on. I'm just going to say, because we never end a meeting on a philosophical note. Remember, nobody is right 100% of the time. Make your own decisions. And because we never end a meeting on a philosophical note, get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.